Thailand. This is as close as I'm gonna get to winter. So let's talk about winter training, because in this video what I want to go through is how you would approach winter training depending on what you're training for on the other side, so that you can get the best out of your whole winter and perform the best once you come out of it into the spring and summer. So if I'm going to talk you through the stages of how I would negotiate a winter, I need to start with phase one, step one, and I need to let you into a little truth of mine, and that is that I went to Phuket this weekend to race in the Laguna Phuket Triathlon, and then I didn't race. I decided not to. 2 weeks after New York, I wasn't feeling right, the body wasn't feeling ready, and I decided instead I was going to watch my friends race. And actually, that's the point of step one of negotiating a winter, that you don't have to just keep training. Once you've kind of finished your goal race, which for Mary and I was New York, then take some time off. Take some time away from structure. You don't need to train at all if you don't want to, but you can just do it as and when you feel instead, and that's what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks. If I feel like a run, I'm gonna run. If I don't feel like a run, if I don't feel like racing, I'm not going to race. And it should be absolutely guilt-free, because when you focus on something for so long and you really dedicate yourself to it, like a goal, like a marathon, a half marathon, or even a 10K or 5K, then actually you need a small time after that event to kind of unfocus yourself, to relax, to not worry about structure. Your body and your mind will absolutely thank you in the long run. I know professional athletes that take a month off at a time after a big race and then they reset. There's no shame in it. That should be phase one before you even think about how you're approaching the winter. So once you've had your rest and recovery, once you've given yourself enough time off, a general rule of thumb is maybe a week for every hour that you raced. So let's say a marathon takes 4 hours, 4 weeks of unstructure and rest. But once you're ready, then it's time to jump in. And this was what I would do. I would make sure that I goal set early on. I would make sure I pick a goal that I want to do for the next season, so it gives me purpose and focus in my training, and that gets me out the door in the winter. So for us, we got the Boston Marathon. Like, we're already locked into that, so we know what we're going to focus on throughout the winter, and we know how we're going to structure it, and it just keeps us accountable, and it keeps getting us out of the door every single morning. Even if we don't want to, we know, because we've goal set, we've got something to work towards, and I think that's incredibly important, rather than just flogging yourself through a winter not knowing what you're training for or why you're training. But now you know where you're going to, comes the really fun bit. At this point in this video, is probably as good a time as any to tell you about something that we're really excited we've just launched. And that is, if you're watching this video at the time of its release, which is the 26th of November 2023, then yesterday we just released our first ever fully interactive, follow-along, guided marathon spring training plans. They're 18 weeks long. We've created 3 plans based on the level that you're currently at, between wanting to finish a marathon, wanting to run for a time in a marathon, or wanting to qualify or run a standard for a marathon. 3 different plans for 3 different types of people. So it's only available for the next month. It's actually less than the cost of a Starbucks latte every week, £15 a month. And it'll involve live chat with Mary and I every week, the chance to ask any questions, accountability in Facebook groups, and so much more. So if you're interested, I'll leave the link in the description of this video. You don't have long to sign up, but we're really excited about what's to come. Back to the video. And I had to bring you with me on this run, didn't I? Not only because it's a beautiful beach run at sunrise at about 5:45 AM, but also because this run is completely representative of this whole video, because it's my first official structured run for Boston Marathon training. I gotta take you down for sunrise at the beach for this bit. Look at that! Man, that's good for the soul. So back to the video. Once you've had your rest, where you've taken some time off, you've recharged, and once you've decided what your goals actually are for the next season, so that you're looking ahead through the winter, it's time to actually work out how to get to those goals. We take our goal, let's take in mind Boston Marathon 15th of April, and all we do then is we work backwards in blocks. So I would give myself, usually for a marathon, for example, a 3-week taper. You might want to give yourself a 2-week taper. Don't worry about that bit for now. you work backwards, and then you do blocks of 4. So we keep just chunking it backwards. We go 4 blocks, 4 blocks, 4 blocks, all the way backwards to when we want to start to train, which is around about now for a spring marathon. So then once you've blocked your way backwards all the way through the winter, you'll have a very good idea of your starting point, as in when you need to begin structure. And once you know that, well then, you can really drill in. Bye beach. Okay, so once you've got the twin pillars of knowing what race you're aiming for and already having blocked yourself backwards all the way over a winter, you can decide, quite importantly, what you do in those blocks. I didn't really think this through, by the way, because I'm going uphill now for a kilometre. So one of the main methods people used to use a lot, let's call it traditional periodization, was that they used to put all their winter miles as large volume, building the base, and then as they came out of the winter into the spring, you start putting the punchier, faster sessions on top because you've got the base underneath. But what a lot of people realised is that might work for the shorter distances, kind of below 5k, 10k. But once you get up to a half marathon, that model is not really appropriate. I'm still going uphill. I'm going to talk when I'm going downhill, hold on. Here we go, downhill coming. So what people started to realise was that that traditional method, it maybe doesn't work, because when you get to the longer distances like marathon and half marathon, as you get nearer to the race, you need to be putting in slightly bigger volume. Your body needs to get used to, for example, running 35 kilometres or over 20 miles near to marathon day. So if you did all the long miles earlier on in the winter, your legs just aren't going to be ready. And that's where reverse periodization comes in. So by simply reversing the process, assuming you've got a reasonable base, as long as you did the speed up front over the winter and then the base miles as you're getting nearer to your event, you're probably going to be in better shape and more primed to actually run that event. And you know what the added bonus is of that approach? Is that running long runs in the middle of the winter when it's dark or cold or wet, they're not particularly enjoyable. More so, much more enjoyable when you get out into the spring and do it. So if we use me and Boston Marathon as an example, over the next few months, Mary and I, we're going to be running shorter distances but pacier sessions for a while, get that speed back underneath, and then when we come out the other side of the winter, which obviously we don't really have here, but you know, go with it, then we'll start building the volume towards Boston again, reverse periodization. And that is run 1 of many done. All right, while we're here, let's just dig a little deeper on how those blocks might look. So I'm going to start my winter working on speed, and by that I mean, you know, short, sharp sessions, nothing too long, and then working on my 400 meter repeat style stuff, some 5k pace pyramids, all of that is in the plan as well, but I'm gonna really try and lay down the speed underneath. So then after that 4-week block, I start working on speed endurance. So I'm still doing some of the speed work, but I'm making it a little bit more marathon specific. Some people call it tempo, some people call it threshold style running, but I'm working on my body's ability to get rid of lactate as it accumulates. And that is a 4-week block for me. That's gonna really help me when it comes to my kind of marathon specific stuff later on in the block. And then basically I just start to get way more marathon specific in the 2 build blocks. I start to add the volume, my long runs go way up, and I start to think, right, this is it. I've got the speed underneath, now it's time to be really specific about the marathon. So I'll do lots of efforts around my marathon pace goal, marathon pace in the long runs and in the week sessions. And that's another kind of 7 weeks, which leads me to the taper. And with the taper, I'm just gradually reducing my volume over 3 weeks, because I really think if you're training hard for a marathon, 3 weeks is the right amount. Some people like 2, but I'm starting to bring it down by about 25% the first week, to 50% the second week, to 75% the third week. So I'm absolutely fresh, ready to go on marathon race day. And that is how I focus and build my blocks as I go backwards or forwards, however you want to look at it. So once you've got all the running plans, you've got to start thinking about all the other stuff. And before the volume goes up, when that comes out the other side of winter, you probably have some time to play with. And that's a good thing, because You're definitely going to need to make use of things like this, not necessarily this, but things like this. Because building your body as a stronger machine to handle the volume that's to come is absolutely crucial for pro athletes, but also us amateur athletes alike. Everybody should be doing it. You should dedicate some more time in the winter to get your strength and conditioning done, whether that be going to the gym or home workouts or yoga or whatever it is. You really need to think, if I do it once when I've got higher volume coming out the other side in spring, I should be doing it twice or 3 times in the winter, and that's per week, obviously. Oh, this is how you hill train in flat Bangkok. So just before you're ready to go through your winter training, one last thing you need to consider is your winter outfit. And I don't mean it's a fashion parade, although Mary might tell you different. What I actually mean is choose the appropriate clothing for the appropriate weather. So a wiser man than me once told me that there is no such thing as bad weather. There's only bad clothing choices. And Mary and I fully subscribe to that fact. Obviously, at the moment, this is our winter training outfit. But actually, if we were back in the UK, it would be a very different proposition. So back in the UK, we'd be thinking of things like base layers, buffs, beanies, gloves, you name it, we would wear it. And I can quite confidently say, even in the coldest temperatures it gets to in the UK, which admittedly not as cold as it can get elsewhere, but still, you know, -5, we would definitely still never be cold, always able to fulfill our run, always able to get it done, because we picked the right clothing for us and the situation. It just so happens though, this is the correct clothing for our winter training now. It is actually, believe it or not, winter in Thailand. This morning when we were having breakfast, it was 23 degrees. Almost.
The opposite thing about Thailand winter is it's the best season.
Yeah, you can actually run without feeling like you've got a coat on. Oh, that's the end of the run. And it brings us nicely to the end of the video, because the final point about marathon training is that you crack on, you get started. It's now you've done all of the things that you needed to do to get yourself focused, get yourself in the game, plan all of those things. Now it's time to do the things that will keep you in the game, like reward yourself. 1, thank you.
Oh, it's so cold.
2, this is going to be delicious. What we tend to do on a Thursday night is we have our treat date night, so we go out together, we have fun, we're rewarding ourselves with Pocari Sweat because we love it. We are not sponsored, by the way, we just love Pocari Sweat.
We wish we were.
We wish we were. But that's the thing with winter training or any training, is you have to find ways to keep yourself in the game. Little treats here and there. In the winter in the UK, we used to run a warm bath to come home to, or heating on, or just little things that kind of keep you consistent and make you want to do it. And that's a way to negotiate your way through the winter. But for us over here, a nice little drink. And if this video brought you value, then consider subscribing to the channel, but never a hard sell. And if you like the video, you're definitely going to like this one, which is the big problem with running slow to get fast. But as always, other solutions. Thanks for watching. See you Sunday.